Thank you very much. It's so good to be here. Once again, first, dear ladies and gentlemen, I have to say something. It's actually a declaration. I've been coming to PODIM, I think, for the last 15 years. And more or less, I was chairing some kind of a panel. And I'm really glad to do that again this year. PODIM, with PODIM, I have become, let's say, mature. But PODIM itself has remained young and vital. And I think this is due to Professor Rebernik. And the guys and the team, please stand up, Professor. Thank you very much. Now, this is going to be, we always talk about the future because PODIM is about the future. PODIM is the future. I have here 4 quite distinguished guests, and I met before. I know only one of them. That's the Slovenian guy, Pleško, and I think you know him. But it is my pleasure now to call every one of them to the stage. And the first one I would like to call is Michael. I hope I will pronounce your surname correctly. Matias or Matias. How should it be correct? Matias. Michael Matias. Please join me. Welcome, Michael. This guy, he's just 21, right? You are 21. He's really young. But that doesn't mean that he's not experienced. On the contrary, he's a technology enthusiast, founder of Hacking Generation Y. And he has been dealing with entrepreneurship for 6 years, which is 1/3, a bit more than 1/3 of your life. That's interesting, right? 6 years. He was just 15. Now he lives in Israel and also in the United States. He travels a lot, and he's an entrepreneur. Welcome. Michelle McConomy is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Corporate Innovation Services at RocketSpace. Please join me. She's, let's say, I'm not saying that our young colleague is inexperienced, on the contrary, but Michelle does have.
I hope I look 21.
You.
Maybe a little bit older.
To be fair, if somebody asked me how old you looked.
Hopefully you won't say it out loud.
May I? I would say 27.
Ah, good answer.
Good answer.
Wonderful answer.
Of course, I have to be honest because I started my career as a journalist, and we have to be honest.
Honesty is the best policy.
Okay. So, please greet Michelle McConomy from RocketSpace 27. Atsushi Sasawaki is the manager of the planning department at Omron, Japan. And I think it wouldn't be fair to say that he's 27. I think we must be about the same generation, but I guess this gentleman looks a bit younger. Pleased to meet you, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome. So, Atsushi Sasawaki has been working in the Japanese corporation Omron for 25 years. I think that you all took part in the lecture before, so you people know what Omron is about. It's about components, equipment systems, and they're especially recognizable for their medical equipment. And as far as I know, every startup in the world would like to work with them. Correct, sir? Yeah. You all have microphones? Is there another microphone? Okay.
I can pass.
Oh, you know. Okay. And finally, Pleško. Let's say we have been together at these panels for, I don't know, second time, third time? Yeah. Pleško, Cosylab, Slovenia. and he's one of the people that works with Omron. Is that correct? You know, he's a scientist, he's an entrepreneur, Mark Pleško, and he's a maestro of living. He's an entrepreneur, but he also cherishes and enjoys life because he lives in the karst region of Slovenia, which has the best wine, the best cheese, the best ham. Please join us, sir. Now, I will ask, please, dear audience, feel free to participate within the discussion. Any comments, remarks, questions are more than welcome. Just don't throw us off the stage. We have another 40 minutes. And I can tell you, I can promise that we'll be on time. Now, Michelle, we'll start with you. Who holds the crystal ball? Let's say that there is one. Let us say that there is a crystal ball. Who holds it?
Yeah, I would say actually the startup community. They hold the crystal ball. I think a lot of times when we're working with our partners, we see the future before it hits, and it's always through the entrepreneur's eyes, because the entrepreneurs are seeing the gaps in the market. They're seeing the new opportunities. They're the ones that, I don't know if they necessarily see it as the crystal ball, but they're seeing the white space. They're seeing the open space. And to me, that's where, you know, where all inspiration for innovation should come from is from the entrepreneurial community. They're the ones that have the unique insight.
Having the crystal ball is nice. Holding it is even nicer. But on the other hand, this means a great deal of responsibility. Do you trust the young entrepreneurs? You have been dealing with them for the last 3 years?
More than that, probably, but yeah.
No, because you're 27 and
yeah, 27,
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's proven that they're the community that has the crystal ball and push it into the next kind of phase of the journey. To me, that's always where the best kind of momentum comes from, is always the entrepreneurial community. And so, as I said, I don't know if they necessarily know that they hold the crystal ball, but they have the least amount of burden on them to stay with the status quo. When we look at our corporate partners, there's a lot of already established, and I'd love to have Omron say some things about that, but they already have a lot working, operationalized, so there's a lot of things that are just the way they have to be, whereas entrepreneurs don't really have that restriction. Also, I'd say, especially now more than ever, I always talk about this kind of movement, or RocketSpace, we talk about this, is that it's no longer about capitalism, it's about talentism, in that talent it's really hard to get great talent as a corporation, because so many corporates, or so many young, really amazing professionals want to own their own destiny. They want to, create their own autonomy and live their own dreams. And so they want to have more prediction on that crystal ball. And I'm sure you'd love to kind of share more on that, right? Is that it's hard to hold the great talent inside a corporate when there's so much now that entrepreneurship has to offer. There's so many mechanisms for taking your ideas forward than ever before. And I think that's where, more and more startups are going to continue to get that velocity. So,
Michael, share with us. You have the crystal ball. You're holding it.
It's great to know. It's great to hear. I mean, I think that the underlying reason for this is that we're living it. I mean, we're living, breaking the status quo. The world keeps changing around us. We keep adapting to new environments. And because we don't have the set of rules laid onto us, we're not afraid, I think, to break them and challenge them. And I think that you see really the best entrepreneurs, the ones that at the end succeed, are the ones that failed many times over. They tried the different mechanisms until they found one that worked within their small community, and then they push it forward. And I think definitely, I mean, in terms of the destiny, we're doing it because we're living it. We're in touch with our customers. We experience it on a day-to-day basis. We keep getting the constant feedback.
Now, I wouldn't like you to praise you, but when I read your bio, when I read your CV, 15, what's your recipe? How come that you're so young and so smart and so entrepreneurial at the same time?
First of all, thank you. I'm blushing.
He's the unicorn.
I mean, for me, I attach it a lot to my community. I mean, growing up in a place where my parents kept motivating me and my community pushed me, and I failed so many times, especially at the beginning, but every time I did, my friends, my family, they just kept saying, go again, try again, and then they would focus on the little victories. And I think as a kid, as a 15-year-old, that you don't really know much about the world, you experience this small victory and it pushes you forward and it reminds you.
Okay, I know how parents are. They push their children, they want them to succeed, they want them to flourish and so forth. But on the other hand, they try to push them through the formal educational system and so forth, right?
Well, I challenge that. I challenge the formal education system.
So tell us, share the secret, how you challenged and what did your parents say? What happened?
What happened, it's a funny story. At 15, the first time my father spoke at a conference about technology, and he was supposed to speak about the new generation and how kids use technology nowadays, and he decided to change things up a bit and bring me up on stage and ask me a few questions. And he didn't prepare me at all, and at 15, I spoke about how I use Facebook and how I'm starting to build apps or whatever. And from that point on, it was sort of made a switch in my head, and every time I would go to class or every project I would do at school, we kept trying to challenge the status quo, saying, okay, fine, I'm doing a history project. Now let's see how we can use technology to make it better. Let's see how we can innovate on that.
What happened to your formal education?
It stayed there. I got my high school diploma. I did the whole path, but along the way, I started focusing also on the other things. I found myself during history class doing video chats with my team around the world in the startup, and I was very lucky that my school supported that. They encouraged it. Teachers took an interest in the company I was building. I found also a lot of friends around the world that are trying to do the same thing, but their community wasn't as supportive. They kept trying to jump over hurdles like a homework assignment when they have an investor to pitch to the next day. And I found that was the difference.
So, are you happy now? Traveling all around the world and all that, seeing new things every day.
This is the life, yeah.
But what's left then? You're 21 and you have seen almost everything.
No,
what's left?
No, I don't think, no, not even close. I mean, the world just keeps changing. I'm so thrilled by the notion that whatever I'm going to be doing in the next 5 years from now is completely different from what I do now. Everything I know about the world is going to be different. I mean, I'm living the change. Generation Z,
okay.
I see my 2-year-old niece using the iPad already better than me, and I can't sleep at night knowing that she's going to experience a world completely different from what I'm experiencing right now.
Okay. Now, let's go to the scientists. You two guys are scientists. Will Michael travel to Mars? Mr. Sasawaki. Share your thoughts with the audience, please. Will he travel to Mars?
I'd like to.
To go to Mars.
Will I go to Mars?
Yeah.
Mars,
So
the planet Mars.
Space travel, wow, I understand. Okay, very interesting question there.
Not the chocolate Mars, the real Mars.
Real Mars, wow. I don't think that because my business and my life is very pragmatic, and it is difficult to consider such a space trip and Mars. But in the future, if I went to such a journey, that is very interesting.
So yes or no? No? You don't think so?
No.
No. No?
I say yes.
You say yes. Okay,
Yeah.
and now let's go to the second scientist, the scientist from Slovenia, Mr. Pleško. Will this young gentleman be traveling to Mars?
I think he will travel to the moon, but he won't get to Mars.
To
the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon, yes, and not to Mars. I think there's no difference. There are some physics limitations, and despite the internet and Facebook and Snapchat and all that, there is still the speed of light limiting, and there are still technological limits. Internet is great, and this is what Generation Y is about. There are no limits because you live in a virtual space. And as long as in the virtual space, there are no limits. You can go to Mars like today, you can play games, you can go back in time and all that. But the reality is still something. The question is, will he live in the reality at all? Or will he actually live in a virtual life?
That's right.
I don't have to be there in person.
Exactly. Why take the risk when you can just put it on?
Why travel? I can put some, yeah.
You think that's the same experience?
I don't see, I think today we're still a little bit far from the experience, but I watched 2 years ago as Google launched the Google Cardboard, and they went around schools and growing communities, and children who never traveled on an airplane got a chance to be in Kenya. So I totally see myself in 40 years. Why should I get on a plane? Why should I travel to the moon if I can have the same experience and feeling in another way?
Yeah, and I would just add that, virtual reality is much more than what's the goggles, right? Is that there are so many startups out there that are doing incredible things. One startup we met on and had on our campus is that where you can actually put your hand into almost like a box and feel your loved one's hand across the world. So, me being 22 hours from my new fiance, I would have loved to be able to hold his hand, but those are the things that are actually happening, and they're already in development and deployed right now. And so to me, it's more than the goggles. There's going to be a lot more of sensory development. To me, that's where the massive opportunity for virtual reality or augmented reality will play.
But are you actually denying the importance of physical existence?
Yeah, of course, everyone's going to always want to have the physical experience, but certainly I think when there's a medium that's somewhat as nice, wouldn't it be interesting if someday you never really have a physical conference? That, you can have any speaker from across the world be able to present. It's as if they're right in front of you, right? And you're in attendance in the audience, and I can actually not only know that you're there, but then I could actually, talk to you after and chat. Those are the types of things I think that just open up a completely different space. But, there's always going to be the need for physical presence. That's the world, right? There's always there's this new medium. That's what technology does. It opens up these new spaces you never think possible, but then some sort of real world application and need triggers it to be a massive kind of platform.
We said when we were younger, we dreamt of, traveling, going places, just going everywhere. We're thinking that progress is something that will enable to do this, will enable us to do so. Now, what we got, we didn't get space travel. We got 140 signs on the Twitter.
140 what?
Characters on the
okay.
Twitter. Yeah? Should I be disappointed, Mark?
How do you know you're not living in a simulation?
How do I know that I'm not living in a simulation?
Yeah, that you're not living in a virtual reality. Okay, let's not discuss this
Okay,
topic. It's for a different
okay,
round
this
table.
is
But
This is the Elon question, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Inception. Watch the movie.
Going back, no, I think you see, internet is changing our lives, and really in a very different way. One thing is virtual reality, which it's not virtual or augmented reality, really, right?
Yeah, right.
And also, once you're in the matrix, you don't want to go back out because the experiences that you live in this virtual world are so stronger. People get addicted. That will become a problem, I'm sure. And then you have the other extreme, which is the minimalistic, like 40 bytes or 144 characters on Twitter, and it's up to you. You can choose either one or the other. You can be president of the United States and use only 144 characters, for example.
I think it's about expectation. It's about what you're growing up into and how you choose to perceive the world. Honestly, I'm looking at my 2-year-old niece and I'm looking at her experiences with technology, and one might say, yeah, so she's using her iPad more now and she's not playing with her friends physically as much. I think that the world she's growing into is going to count less on the physical experience. I don't think that's going to harm our relationships with other people. I think the older generations are counting way too much pressure on the physical experience to maintain relationships, and that whole expectation is going to change. I don't need to have the dream to go to space. I want to have the feeling of going to space. I want to experience what it's like. I don't care if I'm sitting in my bed or it's in a dream.
Are you guys on drugs?
Are we what?
On drugs.
Of course.
Sure. Just come to San Francisco for 5 minutes and everybody can be on that. No. I mean, in all seriousness, I just think, I think if you were around the clock 20, 30, 40 years ago, would we all think where we were today? Or where we are today? Would we even, if we rewind the clock 8 years ago, would we all think we'd be getting into strangers' cars and traveling wherever we needed to go, or living in strangers' houses for a vacation? I mean, did you really think that would be reality? I don't think many people did, but the visionaries that believed created platforms that now have transformed our world.
So what you guys are saying is actually that, when we talk about robotization, Internet of Things, all the dilemmas, where are we going to get the money for people that will lose their jobs because of those developments? I mean, this is all the present? This is all the present, or is it already the past, Mark and Sir?
Maybe you want to answer. Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you raised it. You're right. I mean, it's really strange, and we have to be reminded about this probably every day. On one hand, we live in the future, with the internet and conferences like this, and on the other hand, there are still a lot of people living in poverty. Fortunately, I'm an entrepreneur, so it's not my job to solve the world's problem.
Oh, so here we are.
I think we're in the middle.
You guys said that the younger ones, and they're also entrepreneurs, are holding the crystal ball. So is it the responsibility of the entrepreneurs to change the world, to be responsible for everything?
I don't think so. I mean, first of all, it is in their nature to change the world anyway. And most of the entrepreneurs I know, they want to change the world to be a better place. But, we entrepreneurs are those little people, this Chinese proverb, many little people with many small things will change the world. And we are the ones. But of course, you still have the global issues which have to be solved by politicians or journalists.
Okay, sure, but no, let's keep that responsibility let's leave that responsibility to the politicians, right?
I think we're living in a very special time where it's still in between. So you have the older generation that are impacting, and they're creating the policies, and they're using the current technology, but then you have the younger generation which are shaping what tomorrow will look like, and there's a discrepancy. But you're looking at the new politicians, you're looking at the recent elected president in France, and you're seeing a shift. You're seeing a shift in the people that are politicians, people that are shaping policies. It's more from the younger generation.
Yeah, but still, is the new French elect president, is he an exception, or is he already mainstream?
I think that in couple years it will become more mainstream.
Right.
People that are embracing technology, the voters, more and more young people are voting, and I think they will be the ones. The people that are today's entrepreneurs will be tomorrow's politicians.
Okay, but you said that young people are voting, but so many young people refrain from voting, right? Including entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in general, I don't know if it's just entrepreneurs. I think, not to get into a political kind of conversation, but I think, there's a problem with that overall. I think holding on to jobs from the past is, for whatever country you name that's trying to do that, is a losing battle. It's just that advancements are going to, change the game. And I think that it's the responsibility of countries and of corporations to, really train their employees and help provide the education paths to what the future is going to be. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be
just to
outdated.
remain on the political side for one moment for the last question. Now, there's this quote that I found quite interesting, and it sums up some sentiments and some other thoughts. The present mainstream politicians fight progress or digitalization, whatever you want to call it, with nationalisms.
Yeah, but do the governments win? No, the corporates and the entrepreneurs actually are what create the jobs in the economy,
Okay,
right?
so
to me, governments can fight all they want to retain jobs, including my own country and many other countries around the world. But the reality of it is that the market's going to head where the entrepreneurs head and where the corporations have to go. And the reality is that while nationalism can try to get involved to preserve people and obviously their lifestyles and things like that, the reality is that the water's going to flow to where the opportunities are, and so does the talent. And
so the reality is going to overtake them, right?
In my opinion, yes.
Yes. So, okay, now you talked about the corporates. Now, this will be a question for Mark, because I know you and I know you have a possible answer to this dilemma. Let's talk about the big four. The big four. I'm not talking about auditors. I'm talking about Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. The big four. And they are big. I think their GDP is much bigger than the GDP of Germany. Right? Yeah, right. Listen, it's important. And can we talk about competition nowadays? They're so big, they're so powerful. Not necessarily those four, but let's stick to those four. They're so powerful. Less competition, less market, less democracy, dictatorship. Mark.
Yes, thank you for the question. Actually, I've been thinking a lot about this question. And also, by the way, related to privacy, and data, would I allow Google to store my data and not? And to be honest, I have more faith in the honesty of those big four than in the honesty of national states.
Yeah.
So
I can explain why, but I think,
totally agree.
Right? Okay, first of all, of course, these guys are corporations. It's in their interest to make profit. So they will, of course, squeeze me and try to get profit out of me. But the governments aren't, innocent either. It's in their interest to have power. So I have to either choose. I will never be the big guy, right? I will always be governed by somebody. So if I have to choose, should I be governed by somebody whose interest is profit and letting me live so that he can make profit out of me? Or somebody who wants to have power and would even risk, like imprisoning me and doing bad things to me? I think the choice is obvious. It's not a trivial choice. It's a hard choice, It's a choice between the hammer and the anvil. But I think still I trust my data. Google, if they will use my data, of course, to their advantage. But if our country, for example, would become, let's say, a totalitarian country, they could use the data against me personally. So I'd rather have Google use the data and not my country.
So you trust Google more than Miro Cerar, Prime Minister of Slovenia?
Is he here already?
You trust Schmidt more than Cerar?
The point is, I trust neither of them, okay?
Who do you
but
more...
I trust Google more.
You distrust Google less?
No, look, Cerar is a nice guy. I like him very much. But the whole government, it's just too many people. Whereas, look, Google is predictable. I know exactly why Google is in the market, what they want, and how they want to achieve it. Our government, and I think most of the other governments are not predictable. And I like to live in a world that is changing, So unpredictable, but predictably unpredictable.
I see. I see. What does the youngest generation of entrepreneurs have to say about that? You know, let's ask you. I know maybe it's not trying to be a tricky question, but you know, governments should protect competition. We have competition authorities. And this guy trusts, let's say Google more than his government or the United Nations. What do you, young person, have to say to that?
I'm going to try to be careful here. I don't know who I trust more. I like the notion that I don't trust either parties too much. I enjoy giving my information away. I enjoy the fact that the large corporations are using my information to either get profit out of me, sure, but at the end also my lifestyle is about them. I use Google Maps all the time. I watch television on my Apple TV. I order through Amazon. That's part of my lifestyle. In terms of the trust, I think I'm growing up at a place where I enjoy risk. I enjoy knowing that things are constantly changing and the people around me have a chance, the small people have a chance to make a big impact. A company like Google, like Mark said, I can see where they're going. I can see what their incentives are. It's pretty clear. And I think it's going to be pretty hard to change these incentives. I look at countries around the world and I see incentives change by the second and I can't do anything about it. That's what scares me. I think that's also why at least the younger generation, I don't know if I speak for all of them, but we go more towards the corporations.
Okay, or is it just that, you know, the younger generation, and this is a myth, I guess, and it's not true, you know, that they just don't care. They just live. They don't care. They just live. It's a myth. Is it a myth?
I think they're a bit more distant from the political scene, at least up until, I haven't reached that age yet, but up until my age at least. I think that will change. I think they'll get more power to their hands and they'll have more of an impact in later years.
Do they care about power, or are they just on the life roller coaster, the younger generation? Michelle?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think younger generations, maybe in particular, I don't know, in generations that are younger, don't really, trust isn't the first thing they think about. It's like, who's going to get me to my objectives or help me accomplish my goal? You know, where these companies that you mentioned, the platforms that they've developed or own the market. They are the ones that are going to help you become.
Do they own the market or do they own the world?
They own the world collectively in some ways, but I mean, they definitely own their markets. There's a book I recently read, and you should absolutely read this book. It's called Play Bigger. And it essentially talks about the fact that these 4 companies and beyond have created platforms, categories that they own. And that when you own a category, you're essentially, as a consumer, the trust question doesn't really matter anymore because you automatically think of trust by way of just the fact that you use these companies every day to accomplish the goals that you have. And you know, I think that's where they dominate, and competitors that come into their space are never really able to break through because they own so much of that market, right?
I'll explain what I meant by why I think the notion of caring. I think it's because the world is split into 2. Mm-hmm. You have the younger generation focused on technology, internet, innovation, big buzzwords. And then you have the people that are controlling the policies, which I think 99% of them are from the older generation, and we don't speak the same language. Okay. It's so distant from me. I don't know what's happening. We're not speaking the same language. I'm not involved. They just tell me what are the rules, and I'm trying to play by the rules. Sometimes I'm trying to go around the rules so that my technology can exist, but it's different. It's a different world. It's a different society.
Tell me, I mean, this is an unfair question, but where is the border between young and old? Who is young and who is old?
Oh, I don't think it's age-driven.
It's not age. It's the mentality. I have a grandmother who's every day trying to learn how to use an iPhone, and she's getting great at it, but I see other people that are much younger than her, and they don't even care. They're not even willing to try. It's all about the mentality, I think.
Mr. Sasawaki, tell me, what is the border between young and old?
In my opinion, the same as him, and my situation is very important for the old and young. In my opinion, the IT technology and very separates the young age and the old age. And he said that the language is very different, and old age and cannot use the IT technology, and in my company, in my boss, and cannot use PC or IT and Facebook or Google or don't. And it's very difficult to have the communication with the same language. And in the past time, the old and the young is very similar. Especially the Japanese to live together to collaborate with each other. But the IT or new technology come in the society. It divides the old and the young.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mark, now, those are all big words, virtual reality and all that. The younger generation has different values, but there seems to be one value common for all generations and all entrepreneurs, and it's about making money. And on the other hand, we are talking about virtual realities. If we all be able to live in a virtual reality, not be able to, but are going to live there, why do we still care so much about making money? Which can be electronic, but is so physical.
I'm sorry. I think it's not about making money. This is the whole point of entrepreneurship, is not about making money at all. Look, let's look at Federer. Let's look at the sports stars. Are they playing sport in order to make money, or is money just a consequence of them being successful? And I think entrepreneurs are the same. We are in for the success. It's the challenge of making things happen, of changing the world. Now, of course, with success comes money, and money is a pleasant commodity.
In entrepreneurship, in the world of the entrepreneurship, what's the measure of success?
Yes, like in sports, if you want to compare a golf sportsman and basketball player and football player, at the end you say, okay, how much money did they make in the last season with all the contracts? So money is just a simplification to compare things. But maybe you should raise your hands. The people who are here, startups and all that, who are here only to make money and who are here to change the world?
Well, it's a combination of both, I guess.
I don't know. For me, look, you should visit me. I drive a Volkswagen Golf. And actually, before I was driving for 12 years a Honda, a space wagon. I live in a small house. If you look how I live like a poor man because I don't need the money. I don't even want to spend the money. So it's not, at least for me, it's not the money. And I think for the majority of the entrepreneurs, it's not the money in first place. But again, once you have the money, it's you can go to a shop, you can go to restaurants. You don't have to think should I go to McDonald's or you go you buy what you like.
Sure.
So it makes life simpler.
Okay, let's ask the younger generation, the youngest generation. Let's ask him, how relevant is money to you?
I'm driven by the challenge. I'm driven by the challenge with the knowledge that when I succeed in my challenge, I'll be fine. I'll be okay, and I'm not going to have to worry about it too much. But the challenge is to make things happen. For sure, there's the younger generation. There are people that are doing it for the money. My claim is that those people don't succeed. They're the ones that are going to fail. And the people that are doing it for the challenge, the intrinsic motivation to cause change, they're the ones that are going to keep on going after they've succeeded a little bit, and they're the ones that are going to reach the top.
Oh, sure, I understand that, but however, it does feel good to have some money.
But it feels great to change the world, and
of course,
that's the notion of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I guess I would say, I think, every entrepreneur, starts out with the kind of, or most entrepreneurs, I should say, start out with I'm living on the couch of a friend, I had my electricity turned off, I got kicked out, all those kind of great, I think, motivational stories. But at the end of the day, to your point, it comes down to the challenge. I think that's 1A. And 1B would be, to get an exit, to have something happen, tangible, that's an outcome to what you've created. And that becomes what's addictive, is that once you go through that journey the first time, we find at RocketSpace there are a couple of entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs as they're called, that come back. And now we've been, around 6 years. We've seen a couple of them come back twice, 3 times with new startups, because it's not about the money at that point once you've had your first exit. It's then about the kind of addiction, almost like a drug that you need to continue to, push on, because you just get new ideas in your sleep, right, to start working on. And once you have some, then no more couch story. You have your house story where you now got money out of your first exit to actually have a home. Then it's a matter of, once you have a stable lifestyle, you can be more aggressive and risky.
Okay, so I understand. I mean, this all goes without saying. Money, consequence, and all motivation, the drive to change the world and so forth. I understand that completely. There's one thing I don't understand. Power. Being intoxicated by power. Is power important? Ego and power. Is this the currency which dominates the world?
I think it's a combination of all the aspects, and every entrepreneur has his golden trophy at the end, what they want to achieve. I think part of the serial entrepreneurs, part of that intoxicating feeling is having the knowledge that you're in control, you've done something to change, whether it's being a boss or knowing that every person in the world uses something you created. Other people, it's money. We can't be innocent. People love money. It's a great feeling to be free with money. But at the end, I think the most special part, and I'm looking at the top people, they're the ones that are driven by that change. The going to sleep at night, having their wishes fulfilled, that they've done something meaningful.
Okay, being meaningful or being in control? What is more important? Michelle?
I think it's based on your personality. I think a lot of entrepreneurs obviously want some control, and because that's what they're going after, a challenge. They want some control on that outcome. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. In my opinion, I think it's a balance of both. But maybe, some entrepreneurs, as you see them, the ones that are the flagship names like Elon Musk and Travis from Uber and, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, some of them you would say, okay, they're the power, they're associated with the power, but some are not, right? And I think it's a matter of personality and kind of how you run and what you're going at, how you run your company, what you're going after, that will create what's meaningful to you. I don't think just because you're more power hungry, I don't think gives you a more predictable outcome for a better startup. I think it's, or because you're driven by money or you're driven by the challenge. I think it comes from, many different areas.
When you become smarter, does power get less relevant for you? When you become more mature, can you outgrow the wish, the desire to be powerful?
I don't know if everybody in the room would agree, but the people you've worked for in your career or you worked around, is it the people that exuded this amazing power that you really looked up to, or is it the people that you knew had the power but didn't exude it, that you respected more?
Is power relevant for the youngsters? Being in control for you?
No.
Or is it more relevant to generations over 55?
I think it's an interesting question. I don't know.
You don't know? Mark,
I don't know.
You have seen so much.
Well, I am 55, so I can speak for the generation above 55. I think, now I'm being totally honest, and I speak out of my personality, okay? So it doesn't apply to other people, but I can really see it, and I'm trying to psychoanalyze myself all the time. When I was younger, power was less important to me than it is now.
Really? So you're not outgrowing it?
Rationally, I try to control the urge, but it's there. So I'm just guessing that maybe, this is just natural selections. When you get older, you sort of clinch to the power, and then power becomes more and more important. Then that's why I have all those old guys, sitting in the top floors and corner offices and all that. I am rational enough, or maybe Buddhist enough, or whatever you call it, that I don't want to have this power. I don't even have a desk in my company. I don't have an office, and I don't use symbols of power. But I can understand, why people have the urge to do this. And it's normal. Look, when you're young, all the options are open. You can do whatever you want. Once you are old in evolution, that means that you have done a lot of things. That means that your genes are pretty good because, they helped you to survive. So the urge to have the power and use the power to lead other people was actually beneficial to human society. But now I'm back into history. Maybe I should again, change the subject.
Okay. You're 55. I'm 52. So it's so good not to be the oldest one.
Yeah.
And okay, in my opinion, the too big power and too huge money don't make the people happy, because I saw the many people make the crazy to get the great power and huge money, and because the man who can the big power who the misunderstanding to control everything. It goes to the great mistake, big mistakes. And organization is easy to change the lead such leaders. And the big company easy to turn to red or turn to the bankrupt because of the leaders changing such a big to get the big power and big money.
Okay, yeah, so it's all relative. And now the last question. It's for Michelle. Mark is 55. I'm 52. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Yeah, but you got to work. No, I'm kidding. Half kidding. No, I mean, I think one thing that I've seen emerge, and I don't know how many of you have seen the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro, but I just love that movie because it goes to show entrepreneurship needs the experience of people in the space and people that have industry and sector expertise. I see so many times the convergence of, seasoned vets of, 20, 30, 40 years with the spirit of the entrepreneur, and it creates this massive intersection that it just drives something to a whole nother level. I mean, look at Google, right?
Michelle,
yes.
You would consider the three of us
Yeah.
to be experienced.
Well, I don't know you that well, but I would hope that you have experience in your career, in your life.
Is he
of course.
experienced?
Well, he's very intelligent on the panel, so I would imagine you are. But I mean, yeah, I think there's a platform opportunity for entrepreneurs to leverage the kind of power of.
Should we have a real lunch or a virtual lunch?
I mean, I think a real lunch is important for people. I would imagine.
Yeah.
That's
okay. So
yeah.
Those of you who would like to have a virtual lunch, just enjoy your virtual lunch. For us physical people, we're going to have the real lunch now.
Okay, got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter.